Hey, welcome everyone. We'll be starting in about a minute. We'll let folks join us. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. The Pennsylvania Bureau of Special Education and the Pennsylvania Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, looking at the unpacking of the Memorandum of Understanding. So welcome everyone. My name is Michael Storr, and I work for the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, the Collaborative, out of the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And along with Melissa Deal from George Washington University and NTAC, the Collaborative, we're assisting Pennsylvania in this effort of collaborative interagency work in Pennsylvania around secondary transition. So today with us, we have from the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, Shannon Austin and Ken Robinson, Carol Clancy from the Department of Education, Bureau of Special Education, Everett Deibler, who works at Lehigh Carbon Community College, and Lily Sellers, who is a student in Pennsylvania, and also both of them are members of the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network. Melissa Dio and myself, as I mentioned, from the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, the Collaborative, Cindy Deutsch from the Peel Center, and Jackie Lister and Hillary Mangus from the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network, or PATN. Today, we're going to talk about a number of different ways to address and look at interagency collaboration and how that's directly related to the Memorandum of Understanding and the interagency work in Pennsylvania between the Departments of Education, Bureau of Special Education, and the Departments of Labor and Industry and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So we're going to be looking at that from a national perspective, from the lens of the student and family, then hearing from both Shannon and Carol on Pennsylvania's perspective and the Memorandum of Understanding. And then lastly, Kim and Hillary and Jackie are going to talk about strategies and effective practices that exist and that are projected to promote interagency collaboration. I wanted to mention that you can find the materials for today's session if you go to the PATN website and the training calendar. And if you go to today's date, April 8th, click on the link for today's session, and you'll see that there are event files. There are actually 7 files listed there. So included, it's the PowerPoint that we're going to be going over today, the actual MOU document signed between the Department of Education, Bureau of Special Education, and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. Then there is an overview guide for professionals. There's one for youth and families. There is a flyer regarding pre-employment transition services from OVR, and then 2 additional documents that are going to be discussed during the strategy section. So just to note that those exist, and you can find those on the PATN site. And actually, Hillary just put in the chat the direct link for those if you haven't had a chance to download them. So as I mentioned, the resources are available today. We just showed you where. Also, this session is being recorded and will be posted onto the patn.net website. And we're asking you to please post any questions that you may have in the Q&A box in Zoom. We will be collecting these questions, reviewing them, and addressing them during one of the future webinars. There's 2 more in this series. As well as it's an ongoing process with the work group around the Memorandum of Understanding Interagency Agreement rollout in Pennsylvania. So we'll be addressing those questions also either in an FAQ or other resource documents. So I'd like to start by seeing who actually is joining us today. So if you could take a minute and let us know who is in the audience. So we can just take a minute and let us know who's joining us today. And we'll give you all a couple, about another 20 seconds to go ahead and answer that. Okay, great. So we do have a nice even distribution between education staff across the state and then staff from the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. We do have a couple family members joining us, which is great. Welcome. We're glad you're engaged, as well as a smaller percentage of community rehab providers and some other agency staff. And as always, with transition, because we have so many different stakeholders that are involved, a bit of some other stakeholders that are joining us. So again, welcome everyone. So we would like to start today with a overview from a national perspective. Melissa Dio and myself, as I mentioned, work for the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, the collaborative. And we work with states and territories in supporting secondary transition, effective practices and services throughout the country. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Melissa.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to be with you all. So as Michael said, we wanted to just start off this presentation with kind of the national perspective and highlighting the long-standing history and importance of collaboration between the Office of Special Education and the Rehab Services Administration for both VR and education. And really, recently in August of 2020, this was highlighted by the director of OSEP, or the Office of Special Education, and the commissioner of RSA in a letter highlighting the importance of collaboration between the two agencies. And if you may have seen also, the two entities have put out a transition guide for post-secondary ed and employment for students with disabilities that was also updated in 2020. So I think from a national perspective, this collaboration and cooperation is becoming more and more important to show the seamless transition, not just at the state and the local level, but at the national level, which you can also see from our new Technical Assistance Center that Michael and I are a part of for the next 5 years. Prior to that, we resided in 2 separate technical assistance centers, one for VR and transition, and Michael was focused in a transition center that was primarily focused on for secondary ed. So now the two are together as one big national transition center to support that seamless transition. Okay, Michael, I think we can go to the next slide. All right. So one of the things that we wanted to start off with was just a little bit of background in terms of the legislation and where this kind of comes from. So the requirements under the vocational rehabilitation program to enter into a formal agreement, because this is where collaboration really gets solidified and it gets outlined in a formal interagency agreement. And this agreement is described under both education statute and also the VR statute and regulations. So with the VR program, this really began back in 1997 in those regulations and the amendments from 1992 to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 that was amended. And we see this being continued and strengthened throughout, and most recently in the 2014 amendments to the Rehabilitation Act, where this focus was, not only did it maintain what was in the regulations regarding this interagency agreement, but it also strengthened that with the inclusion of pre-employment transition services. Okay, we can go to the next slide. And just as we described the regulations under the VR program, education also has the inclusion of an agreement between the two entities in their regulation. So under section 612, A12 of IDEA, that is strengthened, which talks about the agreement and the need to plan and coordinate transition services and the inclusion of state programs, including vocational rehabilitation. And again, that's mirrored in the VR regulations that talk about the need to plan and coordinate transition services and pre-employment transition services through that formal interagency agreement. So both acts stand together on that issue. So really, the bones or framework of the interagency agreement should include the purpose, the minimum required components, how the two agencies are going to resolve any types of disagreements or disputes, who's part of that agreement, um, and roles and responsibilities, and the criteria related to Section 511. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but we just wanted to look at the different components of this agreement, because not all of these components are in both of the two acts, but together they read in concert of a good map of how this transition and collaboration should work under the two agencies. And I think, you know, the work that Pennsylvania has done in creating a real implementation, not just words on a page, is really solidified in the agreement that was just updated this past year. All right, so the purpose of the interagency agreement is to facilitate that coordination and smooth transition for students with disabilities from school to post-school activities, including the receipt of pre-employment transition services, VR transition services, and other services. And to serve as a mechanism for both agencies in VR and education and the local education agencies to really clarify and understand how this is going to work, the plans, the policies, the procedures for how this coordination is going to work and facilitate the transition for students. It also helps clarify roles for each partner and who's responsible for what, and what the process is going to look like, and how it's used to provide students with disabilities, right? So what are students ultimately going to get out of this collaboration? And lastly, it avoids duplication of services so that we're collaborating, but we're not stepping over top of each other. All right, and then there are minimum required components for the agreement. The first is pre-employment transition services, which is the newest component of the agreement. And these are services for students who can be eligible or potentially eligible for VR services. It also includes consultation and technical assistance, roles and responsibilities, consultation to assist education agencies in planning for transition services. So how transition planning is going to occur and how that's going to help facilitate the development of the individual's IEP. What again are those roles and responsibilities we just talked about, including the financial roles and responsibilities? How we're going to ensure that outreach is done for students with disabilities, so we can identify all of those students with disabilities who may benefit from services. And we have to have a process to talk about those, ensuring that students have every opportunity to seek competitive integrated employment and ensure that we're avoiding sub minimum wage employment, and assurance that we won't enter into an agreement with an entity that holds a 14C certificate to pay for students at a wage under minimum wage or sub minimum wage. All right, and then this slide, we just wanted to kind of show a side by side of the two regulations. So in the second column is the regulation that talks about under IDEA, where it talks about the public agency ensuring that there's that need for collaboration and the dispute regulations. And then likewise, under 36122 for the VR program, under the coordination with education officials, this is where most of the requirements for the interagency agreement reside. And I think I'll turn it over to you, Michael.
Great, thanks, Missy. Appreciate that. So when we look at the interagency agreement, that it really does outline the parameters for our collaboration and coordination, particularly between the education entities, so both at the state level, so the Bureau of Special Education, but I think more importantly, looking at the local level, so the individual school districts, the charter schools, working directly with their OVR counterparts and supporting those students with disabilities as they're transitioning to adulthood. The formal interagency agreement, or the MOU that we're talking about in this rollout webinar, clearly does define the parameters. It outlines responsibilities for both education and OVR in the state and how they're supporting those young folks. Was a concerted effort in Pennsylvania over the last almost 2 years in looking at working collaboratively with representatives from education, OVR, as well as family members and youth and young adults, and crafting the rollout, looking at the MOU document itself to make sure it was most effectively planned as possible to support those young folks. As we mentioned, and as Melissa was talking about, it does lay the foundation for successful collaboration, including service delivery. So it really does help in defining, looking at ensuring that students are able to obtain and be prepared for competitive integrated employment. Looking at, as Melissa had mentioned, not duplicating or supplanting services, but collaborating and collaborative services with working with those students that are in high school. Really looking at, again, that the requirements of IDEA for secondary transition services and activities are being met. And again, that those are supplemented by the requirements of pre-employment transition services under the Rehabilitation Act. As we mentioned again, school districts, the LEAs are still responsible for providing and paying for services and ensuring that students receive free, appropriate public education or FAPE. However, with having the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, under the Rehabilitation Act, and looking at the 5 required pre-employment transition services, those are set up to really help students, those potentially eligible students with disabilities, to better prepare them for that secondary transition process, to move into competitive integrated employment, to look at post-secondary outcomes for education and training, and to live as independently as possible in their communities. So let's take a little bit of a deeper focused look at building partnerships and collaboration between OVR and education. So as Melissa mentioned a few minutes ago, in August, there was a guidance letter that came out from the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services regarding this collaborative process. And as we've mentioned, both IDA and the Rehabilitation Act require the provision of coordinated transition services. The Rehabilitation Act requires state VR agencies to collaborate with schools, LEAs, to provide or arrange for pre-employment transition services for students with disabilities. In this letter that was released in August, it emphasized the importance of joint coordination and collaboration partnerships between state VR agencies, local education agencies, and schools in the provision of quality pre-employment transition services and transition activities and services for students with disabilities. It also addressed the fact that even though COVID-19 pandemic really did affect all of us in schools and our VR systems throughout the country, and it did create the fact that students were accessing services differently. However, really looking at how best to support those students, whether that was in virtual, in person, or hybrid approach learning, and the importance that we were still providing transition services and that the provision of transition and pre-employment transition services were still being supported. It also encouraged in this letter that VR agencies and schools take this opportunity to be flexible and creative in developing innovative programs and strategies to involve students and families in transition and pre-employment transition service delivery for service delivery as early as possible in the transition planning process. Melissa also mentioned the fact that the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, OSER, they updated their transition guide. And if you haven't had a chance to look at this did come out in the fall, the updated version. It is a guide that provides even a better understanding of how collaborative partnerships can be facilitated to improve student outcomes. It addresses transition planning, which includes both education and training, as well as employment opportunities and programs. It talks about transition services and requirements as authorized by IDA and Rehabilitation Act. It clarifies new terminology and services, and includes pre-employment transition services and coordination requirements. The document also addresses post-secondary education and training options for students with disabilities and provides guidance regarding supporting student-made decisions and the importance of setting high expectations, supporting student social and emotional needs, making informed choices, and overall indicating how student empowerment advances career decision-making. It's important to note also that our old model, and if I go back about 25 years, we used to talk about transition, and we talked about transition as a relay race. And I even remember the graphic that we used in the old-timey PowerPoints that we had. It was a relay race, and we were handing this baton off between education and the agency partners. And I think where we're moving now, really in thinking in transition, is that it's more like a sack race. We're kind of in that sack at the county fair, and we're in this big sack together where we're racing along together and not passing off, but collaborating, right? And collaborating with that goal of supporting that student so they can be successful once they leave high school, going in for further training, employment, and to live as independently in their community as possible. It's important that then this collaboration, this joint effort occurs, because then it will create a greater likelihood that students will graduate, they won't drop out, that they'll be able to go into competitive employment opportunities, go on for training after high school, in higher education or in vocational training areas. And it increases the likelihood that they'll be as independent as possible and meet their post-secondary goals. Successful collaboration also leads to a variety of anecdotal outcomes. We have been for years talking about how best to align goals and the activities that are being addressed in the IEP with those of the individual plan for employment that OBR uses, as well as looking at other plans that students may have. For example, if the student has an intellectual disability and they have an individual supports plan, looking at how we can align those goals so that there are the same goal indicated for a student over the course of the year, that there's a joint collaborative effort taking place. looking at ensuring that students have enhanced self-advocacy skills, that families are more engaged and aware of what's happening both in the education system as well as in the VR system and the other agency systems that are supporting that student in the transition process. It also helps to increase, as I mentioned, students in achieving competitive integrated employment, successful engagement and completion of post-secondary education and training options. It also improves our relationships with the business community and our employers, where we're jointly working with those businesses in the local community, that it's not something that's happening separately between education and VR. And it also helps to ensure that we are not duplicating services, that we're really supporting each other's services and activities that are being provided. We also look at addressing increased opportunities for students with the most significant disabilities, as well as those opportunity youth that have often been not able to fully participate and take advantage of the services provided through either IDA, secondary transition services, through education, or through what is provided through the Rehabilitation Act and the supports of OVR. So really looking at ensuring that we're addressing all students with disabilities that are of transition age. It's also important, as I mentioned a minute ago, that the successful collaboration does address businesses and employers. We're really looking at locally, what are those needs of our local workforces, and how can education and VR and supporting our students with disabilities best engage in that process to better prepare them for the future workforce that exists throughout the Commonwealth, as well as providing really good community engagement and representation activities as we're working with our students. And unless employers are gaining something from this collaboration, it doesn't work, and we know that. And I think having this joint effort and showing the collaboration that's occurring between our agencies, it also adds to that engagement with our business and employer partners. So with that, and a little brief overview, we would like to have another poll question. And this poll question is talking about, from your own personal perspective, have you experienced effective interagency collaboration for secondary transition age students with disabilities in Pennsylvania? And if you could let us know how you feel about that. So just give me 1 second and we're going to launch that poll. And here we go. So let us know about your experiences with interagency collaboration for secondary students in Pennsylvania. And we'll give folks another 15, 20 seconds to answer. Keep on clicking those buttons. Okay, great, thank you. And let's look at our results. So it looks like in Pennsylvania right now, from the majority, well, it's kind of split between sometimes this is occurring and usually it occurs. And I think really the purpose of this MOU and this agreement and this recommitment of interagency partnerships, we really want to move to the usual always in the state. It's good that it's not never or rarely, which is really good because they were really low percentages. But I think we really want to move that mark to make it more of a usually always. So hopefully in a year or two when we relaunch this poll, we'll see this being more of a common thing that's happening throughout Pennsylvania. Alrighty, with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce a couple of our other presenters today. So we have Everett Dibler from the Lehigh Carbon Community College and Lily Sellers, who is a student in Pennsylvania, and they also are connected to the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network. and then Cindy Deutsch, who works for the Peel Center. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Everett, Lily, and Cindy.
Yeah, so Michael, I don't know if you want to pull up the MOU document, the MOU review document that we developed as a family group, and you're going to hear from, I'm Everett Dabler, by the way, as Michael said, and part of this MOU rollout was really trying to get all the perspective of stakeholders from across the state from different lenses, and we had a very mighty youth and family group that took a stab at trying to help youth and families really understand what the MOU is. And this document that Michael has on the screen, it was an interesting process for us because we were in our group with Lily as a young adult and as a current student, and with other family representatives. And it was, Lily straight up said, why would a young adult, why would a student care about this MOU? Because the MOU is a very long document that could be confusing. So this document literally kind of talks about what some of the basic things are, like what is secondary transition, when does it happen in a young adult's IEP process, and what is an LEA, what is OVR, right? What are these things and how are they interconnected, and which then brings into why and what is the MOU and why is that so important? Right. So we really broke it down from the beginning. So what is this whole transition process? When does it happen? When you read the words LEA or local education agency, does that means your school, and what does that mean? And then what's OVR and how are they connected because of this MOU, and how it's awesome that this leads to a real collaboration, which can help a young adult really get to their success post graduation. And so we hope that it's pretty simple and allows you to explain it to young adults and their families as they begin the transition process.
Great, thanks, Everett. So with this next section, what Lily and Everett and Cindy are going to do, we're going to go have a series of questions to really get that view, that focus from the youth and family perspective. So we have a couple questions. In this first set of questions include what has been your past or current experience in working with OVR in education, and then looking at why is collaboration between OVR and education important. So we're going to go ahead and turn this over to Cindy and Everett and Lily, and we'll ask that first question. So what has been your past or current experience with OVR in education?
Lily, I don't know if you want to go first.
If you can
Sure,
unmute.
I can. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. I am a current high school senior, and I actually am part of an OVR program. I have an OVR counselor at my school, and I entered this at a weird time where lockdown had just started and there wasn't much I could do, and I felt stuck because I didn't know much about the OVR process already. And I say so many times, students don't know what they don't know. So I really sought out information within my own means and internship. And as I started to go through this process more of helping, I learned more about OVR myself. And then I started meeting more regularly with them at my IEP meeting as well. And I think the process of getting into OVR was more hard and confusing for me personally, but once you're actually there with OVR, it's actually been a really positive experience for me.
Well, and for me, Lily is a current high school student. I'm a young professional now working at a college, and I think what Lily is talking about is that connection between OVR and education is so important because I didn't have that, and getting that connection sooner, the sooner the better, the more positive outcome that you're going to see with your students and with their outcomes, because there's all there. Michael called it a sack race, right? It's almost like you're finding a way to bridge the gap together, right? There used to be a gap between graduation and adult life. It's almost like you felt, or families feel like graduation happens. I don't want to speak for you, Cindy, but graduation happens and it just ends, right? But this kind of bridges that time and helps families to see what the future is. And in my professional role, I have seen families actually experience that now, where they feel like they're leaving high school with a plan and with supports in place that they feel like they really understand and have connected with prior to graduation. So Cindy, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about your experiences with your family and yourself.
Thanks, Everett. Yeah, so speaking as a parent, my son is 26 years old, so he had an IEP when he was in high school. And at that time, we didn't have early reach for transition age students like we do now. So we didn't have a lot of that information that parents are getting now, that families are getting now, ahead of his senior year. The information that I got as a parent was mostly from other parents. So when there were good experiences, we got positive information, and not so good, we got that info too. So later in his senior year, the counselor came for an informal meeting to complete his application for OVR. And that was really the first time we met that person. And then they came to an IEP meeting closer to the end of the school year, because Andrew had decided he wanted to participate in Project Search in Allegheny County, which, by the way, is a fantastic model for inclusion in the community and getting work skills. And I can't say enough about Project Search. So there had been some information that we found out later regarding Project Search that would have helped in the decision making that we didn't have early on, and truthfully that we didn't know to ask. So just like Lily said, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that the toolkit is going to give us a lot more of that information ahead of time.
Yeah, because you can have the MOU available, right? That can happen, and that's great. But the tools and resources that we've developed will kind of help people understand what it is, and help people make the connections they need to. Because Lily can tell you this too, and Cindy is an advocate mom, right? The only reason I was going to do the things that I had was the fact that my mother was a staunch advocate, and really kind of helped the teachers on my team understand what I needed and helped make the connections for me, right? But this collaboration kind of makes sure that people are at the table in the right time, in the right place, right? So that people have information sooner than not. So they can get in the know, so they aren't those people that they don't know. Now they're in the know and can make positive changes and really align their goals for their future.
Great, thank you guys. So we do have another set of questions. So let me go ahead and put those up and share them with folks. So next, what I'd like you to talk about is how you think that this MOU, this Memorandum of Understanding between the Bureau of Special Education, the local school districts, and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, how this will help students with disabilities successfully transition to adult life. And then we've been engaging with other agencies for years in Pennsylvania. Education and OVR have been working together. So how's this going to be different than our past coordination efforts that have happened throughout Pennsylvania? So again, those kind of two questions, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to you all.
I talk a lot. I don't want to go first. I don't know if somebody else wants to go first.
Yeah,
go ahead, Lily. Jump in there.
Yeah.
I personally think that this will help students transition more smoothly, because students really lean on, like we said, their parents and their teachers, because their school and the education environment is what they know and what they're comfortable with. And I think before, students weren't really reaching out to other agencies that they didn't even know about, like OVR. And I think parents really do lean on schools and what the teachers know as well. So I think having the information and that bridge between education and OVR will really help students start to understand earlier and in an environment they know and in terms they know.
Right. And knowledge is power, right? That's
Yeah.
knowledge is power. And I think, Lily, you said it earlier, right? That it was like you were asked to be a part of this group and didn't even realize that you had, we were doing a whole different document for the youth and family document we shared. And you said, but wait a minute, the idea is like people have to understand and know stuff. So knowledge is power. And I think the cool part about this MOU is that, yes, there's been others in the past, and what makes it different is the fact that there are these tools and resources that are going to be available for people to use and understand to get the knowledge to meet them where they are, right? Where they are in the process. So if you're a professional, there's going to be resources for you, and we'll talk about those. And there's going to be other resources for youth and families. And so that's how this is different, and getting our perspective in a real way. We spent a long time together, and I almost feel bad for Cindy and Lily that they spent so much time with me over the last 6 months to a year. So
it's been honor and enjoyable, Everett. So this is such an important time for our kids, but it's so unlike anything that we've done for our kids up to this point. So and the path from education to OVR services, what we found is there were some barriers and roadblocks that parents come upon, or the families come upon, and are really unsure of how to navigate this, and stumped by roadblocks with either no information or very little information. So I think that with the MOU, and especially with the toolkit that makes it more understandable, there's a clearer path from school to transition to employment, and that we feel like there'll be guidance along the way, and definitely better access for families.
And what do we say? The sooner the better, right? In everything, right? The sooner we can get students to know and families to know, the better.
Yeah, and I really have to say a lot about the commitment of the leaders at the Bureau of Special Education and OVR in creating the agreement that's putting the focus really on the people that this is intended to support, and that's young people who have so much potential and now a really bright future.
Yeah, and really trying to operationalize it, right, and give some teeth to what the document actually says, and really help people. Their commitment has been amazing, and it's been fun to work with them and watch this kind of happen. I was super excited for this rollout to be today.
Great. Thank you all. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and comments, both about your personal perspectives, but I think also your reflections on how this new rollout of this memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Special Education and OVR really is going to impact students in Pennsylvania. So with that, we're going to go ahead and 1 second. And next up, we're going to hear from Carol Clancy, the director of the Bureau of Special Education, and Shannon Austin, the executive director of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and looking at, from the state perspective, the importance of this interagency agreement. So just give me 1 second and we will hear from them.
Michael, I think we lost sound.
Or OVR and local
Okay,
educational
let me
agencies.
start it again. Thank you. Let's try this again. Hillary, how is that?
Oh, good.
Great.
Hello, I'm Dawn Durham, and welcome to Patent Pod. With updates to the Rehabilitation Act under Title IV, the emphasis for collaboration and coordination between the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, or OVR, and local educational agencies is even more important. Today, we have the Director of the Bureau of Special Education, Carol Clancy, and the Executive Director of OVR, Shannon Austin, here to share what the updates mean for students with disabilities. Thank you both for joining Pat and Pod today. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here today.
Shannon, I'll start with you. So there's this memorandum of understanding, which is really an agreement or a partnership between the Bureau and OVR. I just need a little help. If you can kind of guide our listeners through, what does this agreement really state? And why is this important for all of us to know about and be able to speak to?
So, it's real important as we are, as Carol's agency and my agency come together on the same page to really, to kind of get us on the same page when we're working with students with disabilities. The purpose of the agreement or the MOU is to ensure that there's a plan in place and there's a plan of action on how we're coordinating and collaborating across both bureaus in order to serve students with pre-employment transition services and also with transition services. It also helps to make sure that no matter who's coming through that system, if they have an IEP or a 504 plan or disclose that they have a disability, that those students are identified and that if they decide to work with our agency and they're already within the school system, that we begin to work together to make sure that funding's graded and we help to make that transition as they're going from high school to adulthood. Whatever that means, it could mean post-employment.
I turned the chat on.
Education, we're there to kind of bridge that gap and work together. Historically, I think Carol can say because of our new leadership to both our agency, it has been a disconnect to a degree in working with students and families, but with our partnership over the last year and a half, this agreement has helped to bridge that gap, to make it easier for families to make sure that we're meeting the need of those students transitioning. The MOU is really serving as a mechanism clearly to help us guide us through the plan, policies, procedures that we've put in place that we will talk a little bit more in the webcast on making sure that pre-employment transition services are being delivered. It also gives some level of consultation and technical support to the LEAs in the local field in order to plan transition services for those students. And we are trying to make, as we go through this process, that has been, that we'll talk a little bit later, but also to really, define the roles and responsibilities for Department of Education and OVR as we go through the process. And we've worked very closely together to make sure that that we're considering the audience, we're considering the staff on both sides of the house so that those people that are implementing the agreement, that they have full understanding and that it's real plain and clear to students and parents and stakeholders how it's going to be done.
So I was trying to jot some notes down, I think, of what were some key aspects you talked about when we talk about this agreement or this partnership. And really, this is a plan of action for coordinated efforts. This is to ensure that that transition from high school to adulthood, whatever path that transition is going to take, is well supported, is well guided. And I have to be honest with you, I really appreciate your transparency in saying that in the past, traditionally, there may have been some missed opportunities between the Bureau and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. And I appreciate your honesty in letting us know that this was our opportunity to take advantage of those missed opportunities and create a bridge and an opportunity for families to know what the roles and responsibilities are for themselves and for the agencies that are supporting them as a family unit, but also their own child or children. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that, and I think our listeners will as well. Now, Carol, Shannon touched on this, but I want to be very clear. When we talk about this partnership, this agreement, I mean, this is kind of a big deal. We're updating Title IV. So, who really benefits from this partnership? What are they going to gain from this?
So the intent is to improve the outcomes for students with disabilities transitioning from school to competitive integrated employment. So students with disabilities are our primary focus. But in all, this agreement supports both the agency providers, the school district providers, the students with disabilities, the families, and the communities. It's creating a means for the ongoing communication and collaboration and training, which is critical. There will be regular training plans to support all parties to fully understand each other's role in the process and the procedures to ensure that students with disabilities and their families understand how to access the services and what to expect during the process. This agreement is critical for our communities. The stronger we are able to collaborate and support students with disabilities to become employed in a competitive integrative setting, the more effective our system will lead to improved outcomes for students with disabilities, leading to become contributing members of their community.
I think it's so important that, we're talking about the transition for students between high school to adulthood, again, whatever that path may take. But you made a great point that this is really about strengthening our community. This is about our students being able to and knowing and having confidence that they are becoming critical members of our small and large group community. So I think that's vital. And I do appreciate, kind of bringing it back to ultimately, what is this about? Student outcomes. That's what this is about. That's what all of the work we do is really coming down to. And we need to make sure that we keep those students right in the front of that. So thanks for making sure we do that. Now, Carol led to this when she talked about training plans and helping to support and guide. Shannon, I'm going to jump back to you. I understand that there are some toolkits and webinars, resources that are being developed right as we speak in regards to helping families, local education agencies, and students to really understand and work through their transition plan. Can you help us out with what we can expect from these resources that will be available to everyone?
So one of the things that we were very intentional in this partnership, it is not just an agreement. I want to be very clear on that. We were very intentional in us having this relationship between the agencies and making sure that services are being met by students and families. So with that being very intentional, we wanted to make sure, even from the forming of our group, that we included external stakeholders. We have parents that are a part of that, because we want to make sure that they're seeing through the lens of what we're trying to do. So we have, of course, professional groups on both sides, from OVR and from special education. But like I said, the parents are there to say, hey, we don't understand that. So with that, with the toolkit, there's going to be several marketing materials that are developed for parents, students, for the working professionals. We're defining terms. There'll be glossier terms so that we'll be talking the same language. And I think there has been a breakdown historically when, a lot of times when you have two agencies that are trying to work together in agreement, where that even simple things as language is a barrier. So we're trying to remove that barrier out of the way for staff that are working with students and families. We also there's going to be a document that's created on what to expect when invited into an IEP, so that families know what to expect when OVR is going to be invited and what that looks like in the rollout and trying to get services with OVR. There's also a crosswork of terms that is developed as part of this too, where it's lining up Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, it's lining up IDEA, and is talking about the indicators, so that families have an idea where those three kind of meet, and what is the requirement of all three of those. So with that, as we were developing a lot of the toolkit, we wanted to make sure that our partnership was intentional, like there was a true partnership there. We have committed with both of our leadership here to have continuous and ongoing communication between the bureaus. We've also committed to training so that there's some level of continuity of services for families, so that we have a true partnership where there's collaboration and coordination in our efforts to make sure that pre-employment transition services and transition services are being done in both systems. And there's a clear expectation from OVR, BSE, LEAs, families on what is going to get done. Because what we don't want to happen is for families to fall through the cracks and then for everyone to raise their hand and says, that's not my responsibility. So we're really working together to make sure that we can have the best outcome for the students transitioning out of arts.
You know, while you were talking, there's a phrase that just kept coming to my mind, and really it's about seamless service delivery model. That's what this is, a seamless line of communication with consistent language, a seamless understanding of scope of work, roles and responsibilities, aligned efforts across the board. And I think as a parent myself, I think that will certainly be something that parents can appreciate, saying, oh, I don't have to go out here and I don't have to go out here and I don't have to go out here. It's all aligned. And you had said that these toolkits and these resources that are being developed were really intentional and purposeful in nature so that we can ensure that what you're looking for is what's getting delivered to you and what you need is already there and supported. And I'm gathering just from our conversation today that this will be an ongoing building out of resources, that it will always be evaluated and reflected on and strengthened and altered based on the needs that we're hearing from families, students, the field of educators. So I think that's a key thing to keep in mind moving forward as we continue to progress. So I'm listening to this and I want my hands on this toolkit and these resources. Carol, help me figure out where I can access these so that I can make the most out of what you all are putting together.
Absolutely. So you are correct. This is the beginning of this partnership and this initiative. So the resources will continue to grow and expand as we are enhancing what we're able to do to support the outcomes of students within the field. As they are developed, they will be posted on the Patton website under the secondary transition and under family engagement. We are anticipating next year a joint transition website servicing both the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Bureau of Special Education for transitions of students with disabilities. And all of the resources will be listed there as well. The intent is to get these resources and tools in the hands of the providers, in the hands of the case managers, and the hands of the educators to make this partnership come to life in the field. That is where it really is the most critical, is that not only are we modeling the partnership at the state level, but we are anticipating that this will trickle down to the field at the individual student level between the agency of OVR and the LEA, the school district, to work collaboratively to support our students with disabilities across the Commonwealth for a successful transition into competitive integrative employment. So it's important that the field realizes where the resources are, how to use them so that we can work together for students from the state level all the way down to the individual student level and family level.
So I want to make sure that I just capture again where we're going to be looking for these invaluable resources. We'll visit the Patton website at www.patton.net, and we'll be looking under secondary transition as well as family engagement, because there'll be some redundancy in where we'll find these materials and these resources. And as you had indicated, as we continue to grow and develop and fine tune what we're putting out to the field for supports, there will also be kind of a combined web page providing that we can get all of this in one location so you're not going to multiple spots. So I do appreciate that. You know, Pennsylvania is looked at for so many reasons in education. Other states come to Pennsylvania and speak to those of us that are servicing the training and technical assistance needs of the students, of the professionals, of the family members in Pennsylvania. And they look to us as a guiding light for many pieces and parts of education. I have a feeling this will be yet another aspect that visiting states will look to us and say, this is the model that we want to mimic. This is the collaboration. This is the seamless service delivery model that we really want to emulate in our own state. And I'm proud to say that we're a part of that here in Pennsylvania. So thank you both for joining us today and for really guiding this work and again, being transparent about what may have been missed out on in the past and making those changes to strengthen our system in the state of Pennsylvania. So thank you both so much for joining Patton Pod today.
A pleasure, thank you.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you to all of you in the field. You are truly an inspiration to us all. Special thank you to John Radsdale for producing this podcast. We'll see you next time on Patent Pod.
So thank you, Carol and Shannon, for sharing the information and through the Patent Pod. And you can find that particular clip, the Patent Pod, on the Patent YouTube channel. The link's also provided on the slide. So when you download the PowerPoint, you can find it there. So again, thank you to both Carol and Shannon for walking us through thoughts on the MOU and looking at how the Bureau of Special Education and the local education entities, the LEAs, are going to be supporting students with disabilities in transition, as well as through the folks that work at the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, or OVR. So next up, we're going to ask you for a little bit of feedback, and Missy's going to walk us through this question.
Thanks, Michael. So we just thought we'd take a moment now that you've had a chance to kind of get the national perspective, the state perspective, the student, youth and parent perspective, as well as Shannon and Carol's message, and just see, you know, based on what you've heard so far, if you could write what you're excited about so far, and what you've heard, and what you look forward to. So maybe we'll just take a minute and see if we get any comments or responses in the chat. So the toolkit, yep. I know the work group was really excited to get to that as well. So there's a comment about the need for tools and assistance in the rural areas, which is challenging. Great. Engaging and helping people earlier. Yep. More organized, uniform. Yep. These are really great comments, because this is exactly a lot of the things that you're sharing are things that were goals of the work group, and in looking at both the MOU and the collaboration just in general. And then, you know, as far as implementation and making it become part of Pennsylvania practice and developing consistency, the use of these tools in the toolkit. So these are great. Great communication. Yep, that's a great comment, Daniel. Yep. So Shauna says, I look forward to having more schools be aware of services through OVR and what's available, and having less confusion. Absolutely. Like that everything is going to be in one site. Yep. One-stop shopping, right? Up-to-date literature and pamphlets. Yep. It is hard to keep up with that kind of stuff, right? Because as soon as everything gets fixed, then something changes and we've got to update it. But this is a great opportunity to get everything updated and consistent. And one of the things that Michael and I are excited about here in Pennsylvania, because we don't see this in all other states, where you have all the different entities, including parent groups and the voice of youth themselves, making sure that the information is understandable and consistent. So great comments.
One of the other comments, Missy, was from a school, a private school that works with a number of students from throughout the Commonwealth, and looking at that consistency. And I think that always has been an issue of making sure that what's happening you know, in either the western or the central or the eastern part of the Commonwealth was consistent, and people were hearing the same thing and following those same principles. So I think that's another thing that this really does. And there was another comment kind of looking at some of the youth that were not always provided those opportunities. So kids in foster care, juvenile corrections, and so forth. And I know that's something nationally and through the NTAC, the collaborative, we're really also focusing on.
And there really is no magic bullet to collaboration, because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, right? But we're hoping that these tools, which many of you are mentioning, are going to be a great resource to you all, so that that consistency and the collaboration will be easier to facilitate in your local areas.
Great. Thank you. We really appreciate all of your comments, and you can keep adding those in the chat. We are going to go ahead and move into our next section. But again, thank you for sharing, and Missy, thank you for facilitating that. So we're next going to move over and hear about strategies and effective practices that promote interagency collaboration from both the education as well as the OVR lens. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jackie Lister, Hillary Magus, and Kim Robinson.
Thank you, Michael. I guess first, before we get started, there is a document that we wanted to share with you that's similar to what you saw that the Youth and Family Group created. There, in our work together, we also created a document that would better support the professional staff working with the Bureau of Special Education and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. I'm hoping that you're getting the clear message that the MOU is really meant to offer a deep connection between the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Bureau of Special Education. And this document, with this, we hope to really clarify that collaborative relationship between the two entities and the people who are supported by each of the entities. This document will provide that brief overview of the MOU specifically for OVR staff members and special educators. And it's our hope that this will be a very usable resource as we move forward in our work together. So with that, I'll go on with our first question that I'd like to ask to Hillary and Kim. So Hillary and Kim, we think about this collaboration between OVR and the Bureau of Special Education. Is that really new, or is there something new about it that you'd want to share? Hillary, let's start with you.
Sure. So in actuality, we've really been doing a lot of collaboration with OVR through the Transition Initiative over the years. First and foremost, we actually, for the original MOU, have a state leadership team for all agencies supporting transition age youth that meets several times a year and does a lot of work together collaboratively to provide training, to provide the annual transition conference, to provide resources, products, and projects that would support transition in Pennsylvania. And OVR has been a very consistent partner at that table. That work also goes down to the local level, where at our intermediate units, they're either running what are called transition coordinating councils or partnering with other agencies to provide employment coalitions through ODP and OVR. And OVR is always an active partner in those local conversations as well. So at a statewide and at a local level, there is that partnership. I mentioned the annual transition conference. OVR is a co-funder of our statewide transition conference. They have provided youth and family scholarships when the conference is live. They have supported things like the Fab Lab, and they are a constant team member in helping to choose high quality sessions and also presenting high quality sessions at the transition conference. In addition, when appropriate, we have done co-trainings with our partners at OVR, especially when pre-employment transition services rolled out and introducing that. So we constantly are partnering with OVR. At times I joke that I see OVR team members more than I see some of my patent colleagues. So that it is happening. I think what this MOU does that kind of highlights it is letting everybody know that it is happening and that there is a formal process for it now, which will include a plan for sustained training and technical assistance to the field. One of the questions that's come through that I think is easy to address now is how will these resources be getting out to the field? This is just the beginning of what is going to be a long and fruitful partnership, introducing resources and tools to support the field. I don't know if anyone can see how many people are on this call today, but we have over 600 participants at various times throughout the call today. The way that these tools will get to the hands is based on the collaboration that we have. You see that we have youth and families. They will be distributing amongst their networks. Education will be distributing through the intermediate units and through the local education agencies these tools, and OVR will be distributing through their district offices and their rehab counselors and their providers as well. So this is really a very coordinated and collaborative effort to get these tools into the hands of people who need to get them.
Thanks, Hillary. Kim, are there some things you would add to that?
Absolutely. I would, of course, just agree with everything that Hillary just stated. That we have been, active participants in all of those various activities, and along with BSE and Patton. But also, I would add that there's another experience, the employment connection is another activity that we all participate in. It's actually a collaborative partnership between OVR, Education, Patton, and ODP, where we typically come together on a regional level. And this typically does happen every year. It has been on hold. We're looking to revamp Experience the Employment Connection, but that is a great example of our ongoing partnership, that has been happening for years, and that we're, like I said, we're looking to revamp that and re-energize this with this new collaboration. In addition, I would also, mention that for several years now, OVR and Education have been collaborating on shared data collection. Under Act 26 and Act 36, we do have responsibilities to report out information about OVR and education's activities and our results in providing transition services. So that has been an ongoing effort. And again, I think this MOU is just going to strengthen that partnership for the collection of that data.
Yeah, so it sounds like we've had some things going on in the past. We've had the transition conference. We've had work together with the websites, webinar series that we've done together, this Experience the Employment Connection, and the shared data. And we just look forward to more of that in a very specific way that will support the MOU.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And our second question is, how does the MOU change this collaboration that has kind of already been going on? You just described that it's been going on. How does the MOU change that?
Sure. So the first thing is that for the first time, it actually gives clarity and structure to the collaboration. I think what is good about it is that it'll make things more transparent to the field in terms of who's responsible, what's happening when, that sort of information. And then second to that is that it really does provide a system for shared training and technical assistance, and giving that information and releasing that information in a really systemic way, and providing those tools and resources that will help support this work in the field.
Go ahead, Kim.
So I would also chime in. The MOU also, it gives us the opportunity to regularly update the document and update procedures. We are meeting right now on a bi-weekly basis, Education and BSE and Patton, to talk about the toolkit and develop these webinars and resources. And we plan to continue this open communication. So as things come up, as things change and evolve, if we have to adapt to things like COVID-19 or anything else like that in the future, we have those regular opportunities to communicate and to talk about ways that we can update the MOU and update the way that we are working together.
I think too, it adds some clarity about roles and making differentiation about who's responsible for what types of services. And it'll give some clarity as we move forward in releasing some of the materials in the toolkit in the future webinars about that idea of not supplementing, not supplanting services under IDEA, meaning that the things that OVR can provide to a district really don't absolve a district from their responsibilities under IDEA, but they should supplement things that don't currently exist within that LEA. And there'll be a lot of other tools, things like inviting OVR to the education or to the IEP meeting, best practices for that, practices and strategies for collaborating at the local level with OVR. So we're really excited to get these materials in the hands of the people who need them. And it's been a long time coming, and getting this into good practice will be such a good priority for the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I feel like, what I'm hearing you say is really has brought the two entities together in a way that really hasn't happened in a long time. And the beneficiaries of that certainly are all the people who are implementing, but the students who are receiving the services, the young adults that are receiving the services, and the families that are navigating the system, it seems like this will really be a benefit to them as well. So I think that the MOU will serve both in that regard.
And putting youth and family at the center of the creation of these documents, and remembering that these services that we're providing are for youth and young adults with disabilities really help to keep us focused on the resources and materials that we put out. So I think having that shared collaboration with youth and families has been a key part of that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, let's take a look at our third question. And that is, how will educators and OVR counselors or staff benefit from the MOU? You talked a little bit about those resources. Maybe you can give us a little bit more detail about them, Hillary and Kim.
Sure. So first and foremost, one of the things that's being developed, and it's just going to be shared at a later time, is a glossary of shared terms. We all know in this field it's like alphabet soup. There are lots of acronyms. And also between the different agencies, just even how we define transition and some of the other terms is a little bit different. So we came up with a shared glossary of terms to help for consistency in the field. You saw the professional document that explains what the MOU is, and Everett and the team from the Youth and Family Group shared with you that same type of resource for families and youth. So those are two of the materials. I know in the video, Shannon talked about the crosswalk where we're looking at WIOA, IDEA, and even the career education and work standards, and really operationalizing how and when transition services can be provided. What's great about that document when we share it with you at a future webinar, I think it's the last one in May, will really be that you'll be able to see examples, concrete examples of the way those services can be provided. And then I mentioned inviting OVR to the IEP and processes for collaborating with OVR, really kind of getting those best practices for how OVR can participate in the meeting. I always say an itinerant caseload can have, I think, 65 students on a special education teacher's caseload. OVR's caseloads are much bigger. And in a lot of areas. So just like parents and teachers and team members need time to be invited to the IEP meeting, we'll talk about, how to adequately give OVR time to be invited to the IEP meeting, respond, and or provide written documentation. So lots of really great resources coming through the next couple webinars. I know there are lots of questions and people are eager to get these things in their hand. Mm-hmm. We wanted to do this a little bit at a time to give you time to digest, think about questions you might have, and be ready to implement the resources. So we'll be slowly and systemically rolling those resources out to you.
Kim, can you talk a little bit more about that, the roles and responsibilities?
Sure. So, I would, of course, agree with Hillary that the toolkit resources are definitely going to outline and give clarity to everybody's responsibilities and roles within transition. But I also would mention, that alongside the toolkit development in the MOU, we have also been working on some marketing materials within OVR and utilizing some of the meetings to get feedback as well from for parents and youth on the marketing materials. So OVR will be releasing some new marketing materials around pre-employment transition services and transition services in general. One of the items that was attached as a handout for this particular webinar was the 2021 pre-ETS flyer that just, it's just a basic handout on what the 5 pre-employment transition service categories are. That, like I said, that was developed in conjunction with families and youth. So we're hoping that that will be a really helpful, readable resource to get the message out about pre-employment transition services. Like Hillary said too, that glossary of terms and definitions, I think, is going to be really helpful to those in the field, to have that information so that we can talk the talk, so that when I say self-advocacy instruction to you as an educator, you understand what that means in the for an OVR counselor. And I think, this is also was illustrated earlier by Shannon and Carol's video. We really have the support of our leadership. This collaboration, these webinars, this MOU really illustrates how we have support from all levels for this collaboration to happen on the ground level. And we're really working to model collaboration on this high level. And like I said, we have that support of our leadership too. And those documents are also going to give some more clarity on IEP responsibilities. We have responsibilities under Act 26, but also under WIOA to attend IEP meetings. These documents within the toolkit and within the MOU really outline OVR's responsibilities and give more clarity to our attendance at the meetings and what should happen. And of course, having this MOU also meets our federal requirements under WIOA. So it is meeting a federal requirement for OVR. And the crosswalk that Hillary mentioned, I think this will also be a really valuable tool for the field. It really, really drills down on what the pre-employment transition services are and how a school district can really benefit from collaborating with OVR to provide these services. And it really shows, the similarities between the pre-employment transition services and services within the career and education work standards. So I think we're all really excited about the tools that we've put together and really excited to present them to all of you.
Yeah, thanks. That was great. I think that this is, these are the keys to the car. These are the things I think that we've been seeing in the chat and seeing in the Q&A. People want to know, how am I going to know this? These are the documents that we're talking about. The toolkit documents, I think, will be great resources for you. All right, we can go on to the next slide, Michael.
Okay, and I think the next slide gets us into some of the resources that Hillary's going to go over. So Hillary, I'm going to go ahead and put that up there. And if you want to talk about some of the resources that we currently have and are on the horizon.
Sure. So one of the things that we wanted to share with you is a partnership that we have with George Washington University and the Transition Quality Empowerment Project, Transition Discovery. So it's the icon actually on the left that looks like a website. They just released their new website. On that website, there are a ton of amazing resources, including one-page guides, lesson plans, and all kinds of different ideas and short videos to help explain different components of transition services to students. The website is really geared toward youth, so it's meant for adults to use with youth as a teaching tool. It is strongly aligned with our efforts in Pennsylvania. We actually spent the past year training all of our intermediate unit TAC in transition discoveries. Transition discoveries is now also being implemented in several Pennsylvania schools. We started with a pilot group of 10. It really is a pretty intensive experience that kind of goes over 2 years, where teams actually survey all transition stakeholders. So youth, family members, and other transition stakeholders like OVR counselors, teachers, service providers, et cetera, through the process. And then they use that information to really look at their program strengths and needs and to create an action plan. So the TAC are facilitating that process with some of our local education agencies this year, and we look to continue that work next year. It's a pretty strong systemic effort in quality indicators of what make good transition programs. It's research-based, and there's a lot of evidence behind it. So we're excited to be implementing this and starting off strong in Pennsylvania to really move just beyond compliance and to really start to focus on what makes a good transition program to benefit all of our students with disabilities. And we're really excited to be starting this work in Pennsylvania. The other resource in the middle is a resource from NTACT, the National Technical Assistance Center for Transition, and it is strategies and resources for interagency collaboration. So at the local level, as you are starting to collaborate with your OVR counselor or your the pre-employment transition service providers and or your early reach coordinator, you can use the tools in there. It's also provided as a handout to help you with your interagency collaboration. And then the third is just a part of an interagency collaboration toolkit, an employment toolkit that can help with some more information on interagency collaboration. And I know that Carol and Shannon in their video mentioned the new collaborative website between education and OVR. It is replacing what is secondarytransition.org, which has needed a facelift for some time. We are now partnering in the creation of a new website. It's not yet live, but we are working feverishly. This is another example of how often education and OVR are collaborating. We meet with the website developers, and we have OVR representation on that group. And then in between the website development meetings, we're meeting with OVR staff to really develop the content of this website. It is going to be really amazing, and it will align to Transition Discovery. So the Transition Discovery's website will have the youth focus, but PASecondaryTransition.org or .com, sorry, is actually going to have a focus towards the adults providing services for students, including family members. So the resources on there will be things that align with the indicators and sub-indicators and transition discoveries, but are tools for the adults to use when working with students. So we are really excited about that. We are looking for a soft launch of the static content on the website at the transition conference this year. So be on the lookout and really consider participating in our transition conference. And I think that actually segues me to my next slide, Michael. Oh, sorry. We do have a few more webinars in this series that will release resources to you. So the next one is April 21st, and that one is on engaging stakeholders in the transition planning process. So we will be sharing resources such as when to invite OVR to and how to invite OVR to the meeting, and the tools for supporting collaboration between education and OVR. And then finally, on May 13th for this year, we'll conclude our webinar series where we'll be talking about that crosswalk document and implementation of it, as well as how teams of education and OVR can work together to determine what pre-employment transition services OVR will be providing to a district in that process as well. And this was the slide I was thinking of. So, oh yes, it's free. This year, our transition conference is virtual due to COVID-19. So we are focusing this year on the theme of navigating the future, a lifetime trip. We are actually going to run this conference 2 days, August 11th and 12th, and we will have so many great training sessions. There will be a keynote on the second day between Carol and Shannon, giving some more updates about where we are with the MOU. We have some great work groups planned, and PYLN and Peel are planning some really awesome youth and family sessions and a youth event in the evening. So we're really excited about that and would encourage you to look for registration sometime in May. And be a part of our conference and share this information with youth and families as well in your LEA, because we do really want a strong youth and family presence at the conference as well.
So thank you, Hillary and Jackie and Kim. Really appreciate those strategies, suggestions, updates of what's happening in Pennsylvania around secondary transition. And with that, we do want to kind of turn this back over to you, participant, And I'm going to turn this back over to Melissa Deal to kind of walk us through this discussion question. So Missy?
Well, we know that we've talked about a lot of different information and a lot of different things coming up and ways to collaborate. So we just wanted to get a sense from you all by putting in the chat what you've, based on what you've heard today, what's something that you think you might be able to do differently tomorrow or in your local communities and in your work with students.
So feel free to go ahead and type into chat. And it looks like we do have one. That's great that this person feels more empowered to open the transition conversation with families, which ideally is what we want. And hopefully it's making you feel a little bit more comfortable in talking with your students too, that you're working with around this and sharing resources that we have both on this webinar, but both that exist, even some of the older resources that were there before the new PA secondary transition.com site gets up and launched.
Yep. Connecting with more LEAs about program development and opportunities. That's a great one. Sharing websites, using the toolkit, starting a process earlier for students and parents. Oh, love that. That's great. Better understanding. Well, great. That's a goal we had for today. So that's wonderful.
And using the transition discovery material and website. If you haven't checked that out yet, please do. There's really wonderful, wonderful resources. There's 9 different transition areas that it looks at. There's lesson plans, there's videos. It really is a worthwhile document. And the other thing, just to kind of plug the Appeal Center that Cindy Deutsch is involved with, have been involved in a series of webinars called Transition Tuesdays. And you can find those on the Peel website. And I've been involved with families and youth in Pennsylvania. We've been doing those actually since September. And that's another nice supplement on transition. We're kind of walking through the secondary transition process. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, I'm going to give a little plug for those. And again, you can find those on the Peel website.
Yep, and Cindy just popped it in the chat for folks, so that's
Thank
great.
you, Cindy.
Unified toolkit, so we don't have to create things. Absolutely. There's no shortage of tools and resources. I think some of the challenge in transition is what we've tried to do, which is kind of consolidate and coordinate so things are a little easier to find and use. So hopefully you're going to find these helpful for you.
And the suggestion, a comment that Walt put in about having defined roles regarding OVR and school district responsibilities and really understanding that and who is doing what and coordinating that and looking at flow of services and mapping, that is so important. And, you know, it's something that I know Missy and I work with states and territories throughout the country, but it's just so critical. And I probably think even more critical just at the local level.
Absolutely. And it's one of the reasons we encourage you all to read the MOU and not just the tools, because it really isn't meant to be a document that sits on a shelf and only Shannon and Carol sign and revise every few years. It's really meant to be a guide for how transition services works between the 2 agencies. So please take some time to read it. It's a really carefully crafted document that really speaks to good transition.
Did want to remind folks too, your questions that you're putting in both the chat as well as in the Q&A, we are going to collect all those and look at them, either address them in the 2 upcoming webinars. So the one that is on April 21st and the one that is on May 13th, but then also look at future documents and seeing how we can best address those, including possibly putting out an FAQ based on this information from the spring webinar series.
Lots of good comments about the tools and what folks are going to do in their local districts. So thank you all for sharing.
And please feel free to continue to type in. I am going to move to the next slide. And basically, we do thank you all for your participation. I know Missy and I, speaking for the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition to Collaborative, really have been thrilled to work with the folks in Pennsylvania and continuing the great work that you all have started years ago, but really kind of having this refocus. There is a survey link, and if you click on this, and I believe it's also going to be put into the chat, but this will take you to a link for both Act 48 and CRC credits. And as Hillary just put in, the survey will close at 11:59. So count your calendars next week on April 15th. So please go ahead and check that out for both Act 48 and CRC credits. And our last slide of the presentation really just is the collaboration, the partnership for the MOU work group. So, you know, in addition to the Peel Center where Cindy has worked, UNE is also involved, that parent center for our Hispanic population in Pennsylvania, as well as our Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network that Everett and Lily are a part of, as well as the partners from Department of Education, Bureau of Special Education, the Patent System, and Department of Labor and Industry and OVR, along with Missy and myself from NTAC, the Collaborative, as well as the Secondary Transition State Leadership Team. So again, we want to thank you all. I don't know if any of our other panelists, presenters have any other comments as we wrap up.
None from me. Just thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We really do appreciate you taking the time out of your morning to do that.
Great. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you on the next session, which is April 21st. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.